It's a big pleasure for me to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation to be at this great conference at this great place. My name is Samuel Fricker. I'm a professor of requirements engineering. I'm also having a second affiliation, assistant professor at Bleking Institute of Technology. And well, I'm one person who converted from industry to academia. I was thinking that in academia I'm much more happy, while, however, still continuing to work with industry. So I'm leading a center at FHNW, my University of Applied Sciences, and this center is mainly financed by Horizon 2020 projects, and through these Horizon 2020 projects we work together with a number of European companies, universities, hospitals, as well as a number of Asian companies, like, for example, some brands you might recognize, like NEC or Samsung, who are also active collaborators in our network. Perhaps back to me, it's the first year where in my teaching, my students didn't oppose anymore that I am old. And this was the time where I actually started out to be a software engineer. Who knows that still? What is it? It's a C64, exactly. So I was growing up in that time, and here I was starting to learn how to program. And in the meantime, things have changed quite radically, haven't they? So the most significant change that I have experienced now over this time is kind of as two sides. On one side, well, massive improvement of computational capabilities, making able artificial intelligence. On the other side, a massive improvement in the availability of data, which at the end of the day is going to enable artificial intelligence. And this is a fascinating world for me as a software engineer originally. So I'm not a data scientist, I'm a software engineer. Because with artificial intelligence, we're having in front of us a fully new generation of software-based applications, which affects fundamentally of how we're going about to develop systems and of how we structure our engineering processes. So for me as a lecturer, it means to throw away my old courses and build up new courses which are compatible with this data-driven way of engineering. And I would like to give you some insights in kind of the use cases, as well as our thinking that we're having when we're approaching this data-driven systems engineering. Perhaps let me start up with a video showing kind of the type of applications that we're working on together with some of our partners, that you get an impression of what kind of systems that I'm talking about.
Reserve a table at my favorite restaurant for 7 p.m.
Reservation for one person?
No, for two. Where can I buy flowers? Perfect.
Parking available 50 meters to the right.
Take us home.
Caro, I will drive.
Play my driving home music.
Which playlist?
Classical. Grazie.
Good, so this was giving some impressions of the systems that together with our partners we're working on. And as said, kind of the environment in which we're working is kind of one which is terribly changing, terribly enabling for this absolutely new generation of systems. This kind of world has not only an impact on technology, this new world has also an impact on business. If you look at these figures, for example, you see where in future the big investments are moving towards in deep technology. So it's going towards artificial intelligence. You see here these massive, these fascinating amounts of billions of dollars or euros that are being spent in companies. It's also happening in Europe. Like, for example, we are in the ICT program, one of the first projects for artificial intelligence. Recently, the European Commission has announced another 20 million actually being invested in it. And just in the last few months, kind of the politicians started actually to jump on each other's shoulders and trying to bid for more money. Like the French president recently was saying, well, we're going to spend 500 million euro in the next years in artificial intelligence as a government. So I think it's a very interesting area also for our students, for our young colleagues actually to grow up into. I would like to bring, however, also to the forefront kind of the meat or the bread and butter of the European economy, which is kind of small and medium-sized companies, which are actually at the core or at the heart of my work. One of these companies is Enviso. It is you probably cannot call it a startup anymore, but it's an SME that has started to mature in Switzerland. That is saying, well, artificial intelligence is an extremely interesting market, and we would like to specialize, for example, on emotional intelligence and develop artificial intelligence for emotional intelligence. You have seen before in the video some of the applications, for example, in a car context of where you can utilize emotional intelligence. And as an engineer, I was interested in, well, what are the challenges of such a company, and how can we support the work of these companies in order to improve the way artificial intelligence is being done. Well, the way that they're working, and it's for some of you, the technical people, the data scientists, nothing new. This is kind of the way that this company is working. It's a kind of a standard way of doing data-driven engineering. So what you do is you harvest data, you encode the whole domain with the help of data sets, then you bring human knowledge to this process and encodes that human knowledge, for example, with labels. Then you utilize the appropriate tools to generate artificial intelligence models. Then you optimize the algorithms that are based on these models for target platforms so that you're not dependent on cloud. But much more interesting than cloud is actually embedded intelligence, or bringing the intelligence on into the edge, and then integrate the optimized artificial intelligence into the products. This is interesting as a process for a company, because what you can do is you can start building a kind of a virtuous circle. Because when you succeed to be the first one in a specific area, starting to produce products and succeeding to win some customers, where you can generate data. With that data, you can generate improve your models. You can improve your products, by that actually attract more people, get more data, improve your models, and so on, and continue to actually build a kind of a data wall around your system, protecting your business against competitors, because you have a first mover advantage. So that is something that this company Enviso is pushing into. Well, doing such a, or building such a virtuous circle that is actually enabling your business is challenging for such a company. Well, what it needs to have is a large diversity of skills that are collaborating with each other in order to build these products. Well, for the first step, you need to have some data from somewhere. European companies are actually strong in data. In Europe, there is lots of data. There is not so much artificial intelligence yet, but there is lots of data around. Second, you need to have workforce. Well, especially this human-based, this human knowledge encoding requires large amount of workforces. Then you need to have specialized workforce like data scientists to generate artificial intelligence models. You need to have embedded systems engineers that succeed actually to optimize these AI algorithms for target platforms. And last but not least, you need also the software engineers to integrate it. So it's a large diversity of skills that you need to have access to. So on one side, data. On the other side, skills. And that is actually the problem that these companies like Enviso are having here in Europe. They're confronted with global successful companies, the tech giants like Google, IBM and so on, or Baidu, or the other BAT companies in China, who are having control over this end-to-end process in order to build the systems of artificial intelligence. So these companies have already engaged in this virtuous circle. And the question for a small SME in Europe is then, how can we actually start developing a competing product, a product that competes against them? And the struggle is actually then at the end of the day to get access to talent. Because these companies have already scarce talents at their home bases, so they started actually to move into Europe, which means that they're actually actively recruiting the interesting stuff already here in our universities on the job market. And each time Google advertises in Zurich, where I am from, well, we create 2,000 new positions. Well, that's a nightmare for the local industry. And the SMEs have no chance actually to enter into that domain. And Europe is more and more actually decoupled from that kind of business. Also, the companies that succeed to do it, if you look at investments or acquisitions of small and medium-sized enterprises, well, those that are acquire them tend to be Chinese or tend to be US. So if we succeed in Europe to build a successful business around artificial intelligence, well, it's going to be bought by one of these tech giants on the other continents. And again, we have, as a consequence of that, a drain of competence in artificial intelligence. Good, we were observing that, and the European Commission was also observing that problem, and was motivated then to start spending in a project, or in a series of projects. The first one we call the Bonsais Artificial Intelligence Marketplace. The key idea of this marketplace is to allow a company not to work alone anymore, but instead go like the open source software development approach, where we have a community of companies, a community of individuals that can work together. And the enabler for that, for such a community, is kind of the two things that I was talking about at the beginning. Finding a way to encourage making data available, finding a way to encourage making intelligence or the skill sets needed to do artificial intelligence together. Because when I look at the young ones, at the students, well, they have all the skills to build artificial intelligence, but do they have data? They don't. On the other side, if I look at the companies that actually have data, like the one I showed the video of, do they have access to these data science skills? Well, some of them have, and some of them have some stuff, but they actually definitely need more. So the idea of the Bonsais Artificial Intelligence Marketplace is to build a protected environment within which these parties actually can agree to get together and to engage in collaborative development of artificial intelligence. As a consequence, a company can actually specialize in that virtuous circle and say, we're an expert now for data science, and this artificial intelligence marketplace gives us the APIs to connect to those who have data and allow us to deploy the artificial intelligence into these industrial systems. I would like to show you a video that introduces these key ideas.
The Bonsais Artificial Intelligence Marketplace will revolutionize how systems of artificial intelligence will be built to solve the world's greatest challenges. Current AI systems are monolithic, closed end-to-end solutions dominated by tech giants. An open architecture platform will enable an ecosystem of specialist companies to collaborate in building complex distributed systems. At the center of this platform will be the Bonsais AI Marketplace, where different actors can exchange data, data models, AI methods, software, and knowledge. Business owners, data providers, data annotators, data scientists, app developers, infrastructure providers. The Deep Learning Toolbox will offer tailored, low-energy, and cost-sensitive deep open-source frameworks ideal for embedded and distributed systems operating in real environments. Bonsais will support low-power, heterogeneous computing including CPUs, DSPs, VPUs, GPUs. All of these 4 tools and services will allow for the development of AI systems over multi-layered platforms, cloud computing, edge computing, device computing, sensor computing. Bonsais will open up the AI sector to thousands of European tech SMEs by reducing development time by 50%, reducing the cost of ownership of deep learning models by 80%, and a 90% reduction in computational power and memory usage.
Good. What is the key idea of how we achieve this 50%? Sorry for that.
Every day.
How do we achieve this 50% reduction of cycle time, this 80% reduction of cost of ownership, opening up the door of actually starting to collaborate with each other? The way we do that is we say that we look at these end-to-end pipelines of working together to build a system of artificial intelligence, and say that the Bonsais marketplace is an environment that offers APIs that allows a company to bring its pipeline and to connect the outcome of using the company's pipeline as an input to the next company's pipeline. So that some companies can come and say, we offer the data, and this data actually can then be connected to companies who are working, who are having the resources to label that data, to interpret that data, who then again produce the inputs to those companies who are saying, we are going to develop the artificial intelligence, who then again take these results in order to deploy the artificial intelligence into the end users' systems. So Bonsais, you can imagine as a kind of a pipeline that offers a way to connect these segments to build an end-to-end pipeline. And the unique value proposition of Bonsais are, on one side, a marketplace that allows you to say, I'm an expert in producing these types of AI models, for example, or of this type of AI algorithms. You can register these algorithms on the marketplace, define licenses for that, and then have controlled access of these artifacts and a controlled way of sharing these artifacts. This means that the marketplace gives you the possibility to avoid uploading data or your models on a Google Cloud, for example, or on an IBM Cloud, but allows you to say, my data stays actually in our environment, or my data goes into the cellar of my partner company down there, which also is Bonsais enabled, and the data is only shared between these two organizations and never takes a detour into a public cloud. You can use public clouds for convenience purposes, but there is no necessity anymore. So we try to offer an alternative to kind of the tech giants approach of collecting data, of bringing data scientists into their ecosystems, and allow the smaller parties that we have in Europe actually to collaborate with each other in a decentralized way without this requirement to cooperate with the big tech giants. Then also we're working with leading academia in the deep learning, and are offering as one of the incentives for the marketplace a deep learning toolbox. And this deep learning toolbox has already now an order of 8 magnitude of footprint decrease, so an 8-fold increase of AI model algorithm efficiency today. And at the end of the project, we try to aim for a 10-fold increase. So that at the end of the day, through the use of the tool set available on Bonsais, you're able actually to reduce the energy footprint of your models so that you don't require the cloud anymore, but you can actually deploy it into your end systems, and they're actually going to run with just marginal decrease of accuracy. Last but not least, there is also part of it is a universal developer platform that allows you to deploy AI on any relevant embedded platform. So there are mechanisms actually then to compile and to optimize then AI models for given and embedded platforms. How do we develop this marketplace? We're in the middle of the project. So next month is actually mid-time, is month 18 in this project. We are working together by having created a distributed laboratory. In this laboratory, we have representatives of each player in this cooperative AI systems development work. And we are able actually to execute now use cases of collaborating for building AI systems. The technical, the platform teams are observing these ways of how engineers are developing the systems and are then adapting and co-developing the marketplace in order to support these needs. At the end of the day, the marketplace will be used and has started to be used already by multiple organizations, each of them specializing in one thing, and opening up as a result of that this entry into this virtuous circle and accelerating the virtuous circle because each partner actually brings something into the play rather than having the requirement to do everything alone himself. I'm very happy to be able to say that the Bonsais marketplace starts to take shape. We have here at the ZINC conference actually a first time opening of the project to the world, which means I have 2 colleagues here who are doing a hackathon, the first Bonsais hackathon, where we actually are playing through this Bonsais marketplace scenario of cooperative development in the public environment. So with use cases, with ideas we don't know of, with platforms we have never been working for before, in order to see, can we actually do it also outside our consortium? And if you're actually curious, you will see some occasions this drone here flying around. It will fly around, I think, here in the entrance. I guess it's tomorrow afternoon that there is a prize ceremony where the best ideas for artificial intelligence for such a drone are being rewarded as a result actually of demonstrating of how it is going to work on that drone. So May 2018, first public trial here at Hackathon at ZINC. In September, we want to do a larger one, a second public trial. And then in 1 year, we have a large-scale hackathon planned for fall 2019, where we invite everybody to join, to try out, to bring their own pipeline and try to connect it and try to see, can I connect to new data sets that others are owning, or try to bring your data set and say, well, what can a data scientist actually do with these data sets in order to see actually of how also you could take advantage either of the market access, getting your skills into the market, or the other way around, sourcing actually data science or sourcing others' data in order to work on building your systems of artificial intelligence. I would like to say it is not easy, this whole pathway. We learned quite a lot so far. So these are some of our key challenges that we have encountered, like maturity of artificial intelligence, interoperability between data and AI providers, and the availability of right data. I just would like to highlight a few of the challenges that we have. Like one of the problems that we're struggling is actually trust in artificial intelligence. So if somebody is a system owner and somebody else is going to deliver artificial intelligence, how can you say that this algorithm is actually performing well? We have seen it before nicely, that in the not so nice road, it doesn't work so nice as in the motorway. So there is a big need actually for bringing transparency or explainability into the systems of artificial intelligence. So that as a recipient of artificial intelligence, we can develop trust in that what we source through such a marketplace and cooperative approach is something that we actually can use. A second challenge, interoperability between data and AI providers. I just would like to show you this world here. That's the world of standards when it comes just to one type of data, IoT data. Now the question is, when you want to cooperate with others, which standard do you choose? Or to build yet another standard, so to finally solve this standardization problem. This is a big trouble. So we have experienced this in a number of projects. Here, for example, one where we do global interoperability for IoT. We were working also as part of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics with some of the use cases where we, for example, had then skiers in Europe fighting against skiers in South Korea, doing championship with each other, or having a bag traveling around in order to track items and inform the owner, where is my bag, and so on. All this is quite challenging. We cannot do that out of the box today. But instead, we still need to work on the right standards. We were doing some demonstrators, like here at the IoT Week in South Korea, where we actually have integrated our PhD students in our team have integrated about 50 standards, and actually shown in a highly heterogeneous environment of how you actually can do this mobility of data and bring data to intelligence. The last part, which I would like to mention here, which is one of the big challenges that we have to solve in order to get successful in the cooperation, is this one here. When you own data, you fear that your data is going to be stolen. You don't want to share your data. You don't want to give it out. You don't want to upload it into this public cloud of that tech giant, but you want to retain full control over that data. Or the second thing is fear of competitive intelligence. You don't want your competitors to know that you are working on that type of data, on that type of applications, with these type of sensors and so on. So all cooperation must not work in an environment like Kaggle, where you publish everything, but actually in an environment where you can secretly cooperate with each other and define your own consortium that has visibility and access to the data. Or the last item I would like to show here in this category is like most Europeans fear that data is gathered about them and is going to be misused about them. So 70% of the Europeans do. Well, we have seen one reaction of the Commission last week, is this one here. You probably have heard about it, making it a bit more difficult for companies now to cooperate with the help of data. And when we want to enable cooperation, we need to address this kind of challenges. Yeah, the last item here also is commercial incentives. We were doing a hackathon, for example, at the IFA fair, where we wanted to give developers access to data from all over the world. This has worked for the hackathon, and afterwards the data endpoints have been removed again. Why? No commercial incentive, okay? So it's a must if you want to open up data, if you want to cooperate for artificial intelligence, that we actually find business models that bring sustainability in these cooperations. And this is also one of the aims for the marketplace. So you see, actually, it's not easy to develop such development infrastructure, but there is great risk of failure. And for that reason, I would like to invite you to cooperate with us. So Bonsais tries to open up, now starting with this conference, and starts to reach out and invite others to work together with us in order to fit this puzzle piece, in order to allow each party to bring its own competences, interests onto the table, and basically start cooperating, for example, along such a schedule of hackathons, or, and this has started again already, also in preparation of joint cooperation projects. And with that invitation, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And if you have time, I'm happy to answer some questions, and otherwise we might have the possibility during lunch or dinner today.
I want to ask a question, and then in your lecture and also in the previous lecture that was about autonomous cars, there a very important subject for me, at least, is safety and security and life preserving in those technologies in cars. You know what viruses may do in computers, and what criminal hackers may do when they take control of some computer system. Those systems are connected to the internet and are cloud dependent. And a criminal hacker may take control of that car and provoke purposefully accidents and loss of lives. Then how do you deal with that very important life safety problems of this kind of technologies?
I think this is a very important comment and question. I was mentioning that this is one of our observations as well, that artificial intelligence today still has some challenges. And we consider this topic of secure artificial intelligence or robust artificial intelligence, robustness in the sense it works in a number of environments, to be still a technology gap and something to be researched on. Also, the Bonsais marketplace is not solving the problem directly, but the Bonsais marketplace would like to offer an environment within such this research of artificial intelligence may happen. Okay, Bonsais addresses the problem of cooperation. How can we cooperate with each other? So you have the simple scenario of somebody having a challenge, an industrially relevant challenge, for example. Then you have others that participate, like in a competition, that offer solutions for these challenges. And the Bonsais marketplace needs to provide the hook for the challenge owner to test and evaluate and benchmark this artificial intelligence that is being offered. And there, in my eyes, is the critical point where these topics of security AI and this topic of robust and dependable artificial intelligence should need to be addressed. And maybe we succeed to carve out this hook to the extent that researchers can come and hook in their tools that offer greater transparency and greater insights into the artificial intelligence which is exchanged. But your comment is immediately connected to this trust issue that you have as an owner of a systems of artificial intelligence and trying to source artificial intelligence into your systems.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So what happens actually, the integrity of the signal that goes to the control, which actuates something so that car either takes a turn or speeds up or stops, okay? So the signal that goes from the sensor and receives at the controller, that integrity has to be maintained. Okay, so there are some methods. It's called dynamic watermarking that some researchers have proposed. And I have 1 or 2 slides in my keynote tomorrow where they are ensuring by adding some specific signals before the signal reaches the control and then actuate something to verify that that is the real sensor signal that came. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this input. There are solutions or solutions tried for some of the for these problems that you were mentioning. Absolutely, and I look forward to actually your talk of seeing one of these solutions. I would like to mention here that Bonsais is for the offline learning. So it's learning pipeline, producing artificial intelligence and deploying it. It's not for runtime execution of artificial intelligence. So when you do this offline training in order to build the AI algorithm, you have the possibility to test it in a test environment, in a protected environment, in a controlled environment, before you say now it's actually being deployed in a real-world environment. And I think that's also an important step to be taken in order to build trust in these issues.